Welcome back. Well, I've got to thank my lovely daughter for being the inspiration behind this video. She was talking to me yesterday morning and she said, you know, the boys are getting interested in hunting next year. So, well, that brought up the talk about, you know, getting into the hunter safety courses and all that stuff and a discussion about where they'd hunt. But the one thing that really came up was she said, what would they shoot? I said, so there's an idea for a video. I'm always looking for ideas for a video. So, you know, sometimes I dry up. You know, you get writer's block sometimes. So if you have any ideas for a video, make sure you punch them in the comments below. But anyway, there are some localities, there are many localities throughout the country, and including the state of New Hampshire, where shotguns, smoothbores in particular. Some places will allow rifle barrels in their shotguns, but other places such as New Hampshire, it's smoothbore. That's how the law defines it. So a shotgun is a wonderful option for deer hunting. I mean, a lot of thousands and thousands of deer are taken every year with shotguns. Most of them are taken with 12 gauge shotguns with 12 gauge slugs. However, that's pretty stiff, angry recoil for a youngster. I mean, that's tough for a lot of older shooters to stomach. But you know, if you're used to recoil and you're a heavier guy, you know, you're 180 pounds or something. You know, that's one thing. But if you're, you know, barely licking, you know, 80 pounds, that's quite another thing. That can really hurt you and create not only a serious flinch, but it can be injurious. Let's see if I can get my tongue wrapped around that. So never discount a 20 gauge shotgun. 20 gauge shotgun is a fabulous bore. That's what this one here happens to be. With the, you know, appropriate open choke, you don't want to ever use a shotgun that's got a full choke. But with the appropriate open choke, a 20 gauge shotgun rather, is a fabulous option, and I would highly recommend it. There are now loads, as a matter of fact, that are specifically tailored, rifle slug loads that are specifically tailored for reduced loads. And we're going to talk more about reduced loads, but never discount a 20 gauge shotgun for being a viable option, and that's a great. Not only is it a good gun for deer hunting, but it doubles also for turkey hunting and for bird, upland birds, and small game and all sorts of things. So that's a very, very compatible choice for deer hunting. Then we move into centerfire rifles. Many of you might immediately think about, you know, this is a smallish gun, so wouldn't it be ideal for a kid? Well, they're not particularly light. This is the Mini 14, and of course you get the Mini 30. You know, this is a substantial gun to carry around. But the biggest issue I have with it, and the woodstock version does not have a short length of pull. If you were thinking about a Mini, you really have to get the synthetic stock. Otherwise, you'd have to cut this down because this stock is just simply too long. This is a longer stock than you'll find on the M14 service rifle or the M1A. This is a long stock. The biggest problem that I would be concerned about is that once that rifle's fired, you immediately have another shot in the chamber ready to go. And a youngster, anybody gets a little bit, the flutters happen when you've dropped that deer and he's down in front of you. You know, for a youngster who's yet to develop in maturity, he or she may very easily forget that there's another round ready to go, and that can be a very serious concern. So I'd be more inclined to pick a rifle that has limiting shot capability, something like a bolt action or a lever action, or even a pump or anything like that that requires a physical action to cycle that round. Most of the time people forget to cycle the next round in anyway. They just shoot, even older people, they shoot the deer, it's down, they go over to it and all that, and they put the rifle against a tree. to dress it. So, you know, those are things you got to consider. That's a very serious concern, and I would not be quick to consider a semi-automatic rifle for any youngster for going out with for deer. You know, unless they're really under close supervision. So then we move on to, I'm going to start out with the next option is the bolt-action rifle. These have been in recent years made in compact models by most manufacturers, by Ruger and Browning and Winchester. I know there's Mossberg probably. Yes, I know Mossberg does. So there are a lot of compact gun options with bolt-action rifles. Some of them absolutely require, most of them probably absolutely require a scoped sight, or at least a red dot, because they come these days without open sights. So that's an additional cost that you have to factor in. What calibers? Well, in the old days, you know, it was automatically everybody simply got a .243 Winchester. Those can be a little bit punchy. You know, a .243 Winchester is not a light recoiling load. That's a .308 size case with 50-ish grains of powder. And even though it's got a reduced bullet weight, it's still, you know, the velocity alone makes a sharp recoil. So that's not my first consideration. What I would consider, however, is the reduced loads with the .243. Different ammo manufacturers now are producing light loads for the .243 and for other calibers as well. Even for the .308 and the .3006, you can't really reduce the recoil of a .3006 substantially. But all those cartridges have been reduced in charge weights and in bullet weights, so to accommodate recoil-sensitive shooters. Whether you're, you know, a person who's getting up in years and you just simply can't deal with that kind of recoil anymore, or whether you're a woman or a youngster. So those options are quite numerous now. The thing to do is to always make sure that you keep the recoil down. You don't want to create a flinch situation. Just because the numbers are better in the catalog for one particular load than another, you really have to consider the fact that, you know, a youngster cannot deal with the kind of recoil that you think is nothing. You know, 10 pounds of recoil is nothing for you, but 10 pounds of recoil is significant for a youngster. So keep the numbers down, and that means keeping the bullet weights down and keeping the velocities down. So all those things together. And keeping the rifle weight up is also a significant contributor to reducing recoil. The more weight you have on that gun, within reason, and of course a child has to carry it around, you know, a youngster has to carry it around. And so it depends on whether you're talking about somebody who's 12 years old or 14 years of age or 16. It can, you know, kids grow up real fast, and so what they can handle one year was not what they could handle the year before. So, moving along. And what calibers would I recommend to that bolt action before I get off the topic? Well, you know, again, the .243 with a reduced load is not a bad choice. You know, with say a 87 grain bullet or something like that, but there are better options out there. The 6.5 Creedmoor, it's okay. It's not a light recoiling gun in terms of a youngster. It is light recoiling compared to many other cartridges out there, but you know, you're talking about a bigger diameter bullet than a .243. It's a .264 diameter bullet, so it requires more bullet weight, and you know, 120 grain bullet versus the 87 grain bullet in the .243. So things are getting up there a little bit more than some youngsters would be able to tolerate happily. There are other considerations. You can get, you know, you can get the 350 Legend is turning out to be a very good, turning out to be a substantially good deer load. Now, I dismissed the Winchester's, you know, introduction of it when it first came out, because I didn't like the fact that they compared it to the 30-30 and the .243. It's not either one of them. It's a 357 diameter bullet. And it's a 100, 140, 145, 150 grain, that sort of thing. It has different penetrating qualities. It has different everything is different about it. They should never have compared those, and that's what got under my collar. But it is turning out to be a very capable deer round, out to 150, 200 yards or so. So that's a good option, and the recoil level is down there at manageable levels. What I would say is probably even better is when you're getting into a lever action gun. Yeah, I don't know if things have changed that much. When I was a kid, it was all about watching, westerns on TV, and the western movies and the western TV programs for a half hour on Saturdays and things like that, and having a Daisy BB gun, the Red Ryder, and so I just absolutely loved a lever action gun. I just couldn't wait to get my first lever action centerfire rifle, and that's why when I cut my teeth on my .44 Magnum Marlin, that was the end of my dream right there. I filled all the check boxes that I had been figuring out for years. So think about a lever action. See if your youngster likes a lever action. If they do, that opens up a whole new realm of possibilities. Fantastic cartridges for deer. For within reasonable ranges out to 75 to 100 yards. You've got the .357 Magnum with some very good loads. The .44 Magnum, that's a little bit heavier and stiffer. It's certainly not up with the .30-30, but with the appropriate loads, it's not too bad. And if you've got an older child that can handle that kind of recoil, I was shooting it. I was a really skinny kid at the age of 14, and it didn't bother me in the least. But what's really great about a lever action like that, and I'm talking about like a Model 92 Winchester or the 1894 Marlin, Henry has their lever action gun chambered in those cartridges. Well, what's really nice is the fact that I consider those to be heirloom rifles, because unlike the compact rifle that they'll grow out of and ends up being sold or hangs around waiting for the next one to grow up. A lever action can be a fun heirloom gun that is passed down from generation to generation, because you're never tired of shucking these things, as far as I'm concerned. I've been to the range many times, and people who have never had a chance to shoot a lever action and had a chance to shoot my lever actions, they smile. They just they get a kick out of it. The feeding, the loading, everything about it is just so cool. But the great advantage is that a .357 can shoot 38 specials, and a .44 Magnum can shoot 44 specials. And boy, are those a lot of fun to shoot. And you might want to get into cowboy shooting someday with those cartridges. So those are great options. So that's about what I present to you when it comes to just food for thought. Is you have to think about your child's age and maturity. Again, I would stay away from the semi-autos. I think that's something that it's not necessary. You don't need to have a semi-automatic rifle for a deer rifle. The child that learns to shoot and put the first shot where it belongs, and most of them do pretty well with that, they won't need a follow-up shot. But those are the options, and of course, there's always the old guns that are still in the stores from years and years back. You can get bolt action 30-30s and things like that. They're fantastic guns. Not only that, but they're not so expensive. You wouldn't care if you cut them down, to suit your child. And so those are possibilities too. Is you don't have to go shopping for a $1,100 rifle for your child. You can get a used rifle, and something that you don't mind having beat up a little bit. The fact that it might be a little bit rusted on the outside, but has a nice clean bore, something like that. That can be a very, very good choice, and it will kids don't care so much about the looks. It's all about shooting it. That's all they really care about. So they'll look past a lot of those scratches and dings that you might think are offensive. So So there you go. To all my Patreon donors, thank you so very much for your kind assistance, and I really appreciate it. And I would really like it if everybody gives me a thumbs up. If you like this programming, give me a thumbs up. And in the comments below, give me some suggestions, because, it's easy for me to get writer's block and dry up if I don't have some comments and suggestions. So that's very much appreciated. So to all of you, have a happy Thanksgiving, and God bless.